Hi there.
Hello.
Welcome. Hello, welcome to this webinar that we're doing together. Andrew, you want to present yourself?
Sure. My name is Andrew Alpin. I'm a consulting sales engineer with Lookout, and we're here to kind of jointly talk about Workspace ONE mobile threat defense and how the Lookout technology built into Workspace ONE can give you a lot of advantages when it comes to securing mobile devices.
So I'm Anne Weidmann. I'm a senior solution engineer at the end user computing division of Broadcom, which used to be VMware. I'm coming to that in a minute. And yeah, I'm going to tell you a bit about use cases that I've seen in my daily workings with customers. So without further ado, I'm going to go to the next slide. And that's our legal disclaimer. And I have to talk you through that because in November, Broadcom completed the acquisition of VMware. And on December the 7th, Broadcom CEO Hock Tan announced his intention to divest the end user computing division. That's us. So the part where Workspace ONE comes in and also Horizon. In the meantime, in February, a global investment firm KKR announced the intention and has signed a definitive agreement with Broadcom to acquire the end user computing division. So that's where we stand at the moment. That's how it is. And if you want to know more about that, get in contact with us or use the link that is provided here in the presentation. Okay.
All right. So now that we're done with the legal, let's talk about technology. Now, what we want to talk about today are some specific incidences where we see value with Workspace ONE Mobile Threat Defense. And for those who don't know, Workspace ONE Mobile Threat Defense is built in conjunction with us here at Lookout, who've been doing mobile threat defense since 2007. So we're not going to go into every bit and piece of what mobile threat defense does today. We're going to talk about some specific examples and some specific use cases for both the retail and the financial services vertical. Now, in many cases, these are broadly applicable to any customer, but they give us a good place to start having these conversations. Now, before we can really get too far into that, I'm going to talk a very high level about what mobile threat defense does. And often there's some confusion, right? Customers will say, well, I already have Workspace ONE, right? Isn't my device secure from Workspace ONE? And what mobile threat defense brings is a security-focused offering to mobile devices. So to give you an idea of what kind of mobile risks we're protecting, we can start at the bottom and work our way up. So we're protecting the entire device, and there's two things we're looking at there. That is both outdated operating systems. We can give you another way to help users ensure they've updated their operating systems to the most recent level. And just like any other device, any other operating system, new operating system versions contain bug fixes that correct vulnerabilities from older versions. And it's important on mobile, just like on your Windows desktops, that you update these devices to running the latest versions. Now, the reason for that is the other thing we're looking for on desktops is jailbreak and roots. And the thing we're concerned about there is not the easy jailbreaks that users just do themselves. That doesn't happen so much anymore. What we're really worried about are the really advanced attackers who are actually going to take advantage of those vulnerabilities from your unpatched devices, escalate their privilege, and install a piece of surveillanceware that just runs a system, right? And think about all the things that a process with that much privilege running on your phone could do. It knows your GPS location, it has a microphone, it has your camera, it has access to every text message you get, all of your photos, your password manager is probably there, your time-based one-time passwords when you go in and open Google Authenticator. If I'm running as root, I can read all of those, right? It's really some scary stuff. So we've got to ensure that that device isn't compromised. Now, moving up here, we're also looking at web and content. We're going to talk about this quite a bit today, but we want to protect the entire device from phishing attacks because more and more attackers are realizing that mobile is a great place to get credentials. So we need to make sure if the users are sent a text message or they get a link from their kid's game or they scan the QR code, we can still stop those attacks from occurring. We're also analyzing all the apps on the device, both personal and work, looking for malware, looking for risky apps. We're also looking for vulnerable apps. So when the new version of Chrome comes out and it's, again, patching a security flaw, we can make sure that gets updated on your devices. And finally, when it comes to the network, we are always looking for the security of any network we connect to, right? So in case there's a machine in the middle attack that's decrypting traffic and your device connects to it, we can stop any sensitive data from going across such a network. So that's just a 3-minute explanation at 50,000-foot view of all the things mobile threat defense brings. And you're going to talk a bit about some specific retail uses and where you've seen some value there.
Yes, thank you. So I've worked a lot with retailers. Actually, I've been a part of a large retail organization in Germany for most of my professional life before I came to VMware. And what I've seen is that most of the devices that are used on the shop floor in those retailers are very stripped down. They are actually only for one or maybe two purposes, and they are built for that purpose especially. They are stripped down, they are mostly locked down, often use, if it comes to Workspace ONE, the Workspace ONE launcher that allows the user to start one application and one application only, or at most two, and with no access to any of the typical use cases that we have. They have often a barcode scanner, and then they scan a barcode and do some inventory or some ordering stuff and so on. So those devices are very useful. They are widespread. They are used in the field a lot, but they are not made for customer contact. They don't have any access beyond the certain application that is on there. They are highly secured, and I completely understand if someone says, why should I use mobile threat defense on those devices? Because they are not for, they don't receive any messages. They don't have any messenger applications on them. The barcode scanner is simply only usable for barcodes and not for QR codes, for instance. But just imagine if you could do much more with devices in the field, on the shop floor. What if you could do like give the device to your shop floor assistants and they become real assistants with them? They can assist your customers with finding the right tie to that suit, or find another aisle in your large store where is a certain product located, or they can help find information on a certain good on the internet. So devices that have internet access, that are smart and can be used with the customer to extend like what the customer is doing in your shops, and at the same time be used for stuff like ordering fruit and vegetables, doing stuff that is usually done with the shop floor devices. So it's internet access, but it's still used for internal apps. That would be a great addition to your actual retail experience for your customers.
It's almost like, instead of thinking like security is a way to restrict and lock down the device, this is allowing us to use security as an enabler to say, all right, we're going to put mobile threat defense so I can open up that device and use it for many more things, which is a different way to think about the way security is usually considered.
Yeah, it puts it from the head to the feet, as we say in German. So to put something from the head to the feet. So you actually put it on solid feet. You're enabling, as you said, the devices to be used for much more, for many more use cases. And I'm sure that any retailer will have a lot of ideas that come to mind if I say, you could use the devices for other stuff too, if you have the security to back it up. So that's what we do. And that's what I've done with customers of mine in Germany. We have the application secured by VPN, by Workspace ONE Tunnel, that enables a secure access to internal databases to internal applications. The applications are installed and maintained by Workspace ONE. We have single sign-on possibilities. We can use it shift-based, so we have a check-in, check-out process in place, for instance, and you can still use the barcode scanner as you did before. And on the other hand, you have customer-facing applications enabled on the device. You have internet access, you have it, you can use it to serve the web, but stay off anything that is not supposed to be opened on the shop floor, anything controversial up to your competitor's website. And it's all secured by Mobile Threat Defense Secure Browsing. So that's powered by Lookout, makes it extremely secure. You're not going to accidentally land somewhere that you don't want to. And it's protected from all kinds of phishing attacks. So that leads me back to you. You're going to tell us more about phishing attacks, won't you?
Yes, I have a lot to say about phishing attacks as we go through here. What I'm going to start with is I'm going to talk a little about the ways that attackers are changing their behaviors, right? So if you have been in the InfoSec space for long enough, and I were to ask you 15 years ago to describe an attack where an attacker stole data from your organization, you would probably say something like, well, an attacker took a piece of malware, put it in an email attachment, sent it to my users, one of them clicked on it, installed it on their endpoint. Then the attacker took that endpoint, started scanning the internal network, looking for all the servers with that sensitive data so they could exfiltrate it out. Well, we've had there's been a lot of changes in 15 years, but two specifically that apply here. First of all, EDR on desktops and the protection in corporate email is much, much stronger, right? So your ability to get that malware through email and execute it on a desktop that actually runs, it's much harder now. But the other thing that's changed is your data, instead of living on an internal file server that I have to go figure out where it lives, I know where it is. It's all in the cloud. It's sitting in Google Drive. It's sitting in OneNote. It's sitting in OneDrive. It's sitting in Slack, right? I know it's there. But my path to access that is different, right? Where before I was trying to get to that server directly and figure out how to log into it. What I need to do now is I need to get credentials, right? My whole goal for attacking a cloud server is to log in as a user, right? And it doesn't matter what user I have, right? If I have, it can be an admin, that would be great, but it doesn't have to be. Think about it this way. Right, if I log into an account with, even the most lowly user in your environment, first of all, I can now search the directory and find who the admins are. I can do more phishing attacks that come from that user so they look more legitimate. Now, the third thing I can do, something that's kind of unique to cloud, and it's often overlooked. I can open every application that user has in my single sign-on environment, right? I open Slack, I open Google, I open Microsoft. And I start searching, right? I'm logged in as the user, so I have some level of rights. What am I searching for? I could search for passwords.csv. I can just start searching for anything that might be sensitive. And far too often what happens in an organization is they'll take something like passwords.csv, they'll be in Slack, they'll be, hey, I'm in a public channel, but it only has 3 users in it, so I'll drop this file here. Only these 3 users can see it, so it's safe. Well, they don't realize that often those files are indexed and searchable. So this lowly user can still find that file. Similarly on Google Drive, often when you take a file and put it on Google, one of the options for sharing the permission is just everyone in your organization. And you're like, there's nothing too sensitive. I'll just do that. They won't know it's here anyway. Well, yeah, they do. So think about credentials being the new goal of an attacker, right? Now, the thing to think about when it comes to how they get these credentials, like we talked about with email, right? I need to get the user to click on something, right? I need to direct them to my spear phishing site so I can steal their user ID, their password, and either their multi-factor authentication token or the authorization token as it passes through my proxy. But I need to get them to my spear phishing site. So I have 2 ways I can do that because there's some information I know about the user, right? I can send them an email or I can send them a text message. And if I send them an email, right? It's got to go through that gauntlet. We already talked about it, right? I'm going through Proofpoint. I'm going through all these email security products and everything else. I send them the text message. It doesn't go through any of that stuff, right? And often, because of the size of the screen or something else, users are much more likely to click that text message. So if you can move on to the next slide, please. Let's think about text messages and your traditional SOC responses to an attack like that, right? So an attacker decides to go after your organization. He pulls all the phone numbers he can find about everybody in your org, and he blasts out a text message, right? First thing, your SOC is going to find out about it only when a user calls you. You've got no monitoring on those messages, so you don't know it's coming, right? Now, as a SOC, what's your response? Oh man, somebody's just texted all my users. What can we do? Well, about the only thing you can do if you don't have mobile threat defense is to send the users an email and tell them not to click the link. So now let's talk about this slide here and the specific numbers. When a user gets an email, they open it about 20% of the time, and it typically takes them about an hour and a half. Text messages opened 98% of the time and typically responded to in 90 seconds. So when you think about those numbers,
much too late. Yeah,
it's
you would be
way
much
too
too late.
late.
Yeah.
But by the time the user even sees the message, if they gonna click the link, they've already done it.
Yeah.
Right? And now you run into that issue where the user's embarrassed. Oh man, I got taken, or they may not even apply. Like they might have got that text message 2 hours ago, and they don't even connect them in their head. Right? So one of the important things we can do here as part of our phishing protection is, in addition to all the intelligence we bring to automatically blocking all the malicious sites, we also offer you the ability to put in your own deny lists, either directly or via API. So if you have a notification of a threat, you can immediately block that on your entire fleet, which is a game changer in terms of SOC responses and what you're going to do in a situation like this. And on the right-hand side of this, you can see that from like a marketing perspective, how effective text messages are. 75% people, they say they want to receive text message marketing, which blows my mind. I hate marketing of any kind, but hey, each your own. But even the marketers, right? When you look at the other side, they're saying SMS text messages are very effective. Again, because people read them. They read them fast, they pay attention, and often they do whatever is suggested. So it's very important we are protecting text message. And when we say text message, this applies to a lot of things, right?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask. It's not only text messages, is it? It's
correct.
much more these days.
Well, because text message, but it could also be WhatsApp or WeChat or LinkedIn, or we've even seen some attacks where somebody has a phone and their kid installs a game, and then in the in-game chat, somebody's sending their kids malicious links trying to get the kids to click on it, right? Like, now those scams tend to be focused more on stealing money or something like that, but it's still a threat vector that you never thought about when it comes to like a corporate PC. You're like, how are you protecting yourselves against World of Warcraft scams? Like, I don't let them install it, right? That's easy.
Yeah,
but
easy.
On mobile, the expectation for most organizations is that users are still going to be able to install personal apps. So now there's so many different ways I can get a link in front of the owner of that phone that it's important we're keeping an eye on all those links so we know they're not going to someplace bad. If you could skip ahead for me, please, Anne.
Yes.
Now, the other thing that I've heard of over the years, I've been in mobile for quite a while, and often what my customers will say to me is they'll say, that sounds real interesting, Andy, but to be honest, I don't have that much sensitive data on my mobile devices, right? It's just email, right? I just want to give them access to email wherever they are. That isn't the reality anymore. Let's be honest. What you used to be able to do is say, all right, well, if you need access to this sensitive data, go find your laptop. You can't really do that anymore. And you'll see where 10 years ago, if you were at a conference, you're at a technology conference, in between sessions, you would see everybody sitting with their laptops lined up, right? Catching up on email, doing their work. Now you still get that, but it's more like 5%. right? Because most everything you need to do has to be mobile enabled. Because if you're going to enable your workforce to be flexible and to do all the things they need to do, they have to be able to do it from their phone. So increased mobile access is something everybody's doing. Now it's like, okay, yeah, you may only have email on your phone, but from your phone, you can get access to the cloud environments that have all this stuff. We're going to give you a mobile version of Salesforce. We're going to give you a mobile version of SAP so you can approve all the stuff. And right, all the stuff you used to have a laptop for, you don't anymore. Right? So these devices are becoming more and more central to everything we do. And more, as we said earlier, the attackers are focusing on mobile because of the fact that it's so easy to get in front of a user a link they can click on. And again, lack of visibility, right? So the entire rise of BYOD gave us the idea that as an employer, I'm only going to look at my stuff, right? And we see that with like Android work profiles. We see it with the privacy modes you can enable for Apple or user enrollment, where you're only looking at the enterprise stuff. The challenge is that all these other vectors, all these phishing attacks and all these other things, we've got to keep an eye on that stuff because the attacks are coming outside of those little silos for the very specific reason that they're not being monitored. Right? Well, let's go ahead and continue on. We're going to show a quick demo.
Yeah, you're going to show us how what it looks like in action,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah, we're going to show, and this is a very quick demo. If you can go ahead and want to skip forward one more, we've got the actual video embedded in here. I hope, maybe.
Huh?
There it is.
Should start.
All right. Yeah, you can go ahead and start it if it'll let you. We'll see.
It comes up in a browser window.
Oh, that's interesting.
That's interesting, yeah.
Okay. All right. So what we're going to see here is we're going to show threat defense in action. Now, the thing we haven't really talked about, but one of the things that is a huge differentiator here is mobile threat defense is baked into Intelligent Hub. So the app that's already on all of your devices can be enabled without deploying something new. So you can see the settings within Intelligent Hub about what I'm doing. Now, what I'm going to do is flip over to my camera, and I'm going to scan a QR code, because that's another way I can convince you users to scan things. Now, what you'll see is that the site was blocked, and then the user gets a notification that says, hey, phishing content was detected. And then you go back in here into the Intelligent Hub, and you get details about the site that was blocked. And I really can't stress enough, we've talked a lot about the efficacy and the threat intelligence and all the research we're doing. That stuff is super important. But what a lot of the mobile teams care about is that we're baked into Intelligent Hub. So you don't have to deploy a Lookout app. You don't have to manage your users' expectations that a new app is on their device and what's it doing and it's eating my battery and is it monitoring my text messages and so on and so forth, right? It really is the simplest way to deploy mobile threat defense you will find, plus all the integrations we get by being baked in with Workspace ONE give you some huge advantage in your response offerings. But that is a very complicated topic we'll probably address on a future webinar. Now,
sorry, I just skipped ahead because okay, so we're now going to hear something about how this actually works. So what is happening behind the scenes?
So the important thing here to understand, right? And you can just go ahead and click through and build out all this because I'll talk through it one at a time where it never works out well. Again, everything's baked into the Intelligent Hub app alongside Tunnel. And what we want to do is we need to monitor all the network traffic. It's the only way I can block phishing attacks is by monitoring all the traffic on the device. Now, what we're not doing is we're not sending all the traffic to either Lookout or a VMware proxy, right?
So I don't have to worry that you're looking at all my email and all my whatever I do on Amazon or whatever.
And not only is that a privacy issue if we were to do that, but it creates huge drains in battery power and latency, right? So the last thing you want is to be adding a solution to your mobile devices that makes them all slow, because users will let you know if their device is slow or eating the battery.
So that is something that I hear from a lot of customers. They say my internet browsing on the devices is secured because they are always using Tunnel or whatever VPN solution to browse the internet. But that's what we said just now. It puts all the internet traffic, everything, including whatever streaming they're using, through the company's internet breakout. Sorry.
Yep, no, that's exactly right. And it also allows us to do it in a way that respects privacy. So keep in mind, not only from a user standpoint, are we not recording every website they visit? We will only record if they go to a phishing or malicious site. So from a privacy standpoint, we are taking that into consideration. We're also adding a layer of privacy because this architecture, what we actually do is we are acting as a secure DNS provider on the device. So now when you're connected to the Starbucks Wi-Fi, and one of the reasons why Google offers that Wi-Fi for free at Starbucks is so they can track all the places you go on your device while you're on that network, right? Because you're using their DNS, so they can correlate that back to you and gather that information. Well, all of our devices now are using secure DNS. So even when you're on Starbucks Wi-Fi, your device will be using an encrypted DNS so Google doesn't get that information about you. So there's an additional privacy protection in place for all these devices, in addition to the security benefits the organization sees by having us there.
Okay. Next
So
slide.
I think, go ahead, Ann.
Yeah. Next slide.
Yeah.
I was guessing.
Yeah, perfect. So the last little bit to talk about here is as part of our integration with Workspace ONE is this allows us an adaptive access based on user risk and device posture. Now, that sounds like a really fancy bunch of marketing stuff, but here's what it really means. If your device becomes a security threat, becomes jailbroken because it's too far out of date, because there's a piece of malware on it, our integration with Workspace ONE will let us take action, so that I can remove the work data. I can remove access to the corporate apps, right? There's stuff I can do. And not only we integrated with Workspace ONE, we also integrate with intelligence. So we can have a lot of very specific responses in here where your company can say, this is the application I really care about, and I want to ensure that only devices that are completely in a good, secure state can access this application, right? So this is an application of zero trust principles for access to cloud apps from mobile devices. So I think, Ann, that's it for our prepared slides, unless you've got something you want to add before we go to questions.
No, I think there was some animation on that slide.
Yes.
I missed that. Sorry.
That's all right. I have a tendency to just build them all out anyway, because I don't have the patience to click them one by one.
Yeah. So let's see. Yeah, there have been some questions. So the first one being mobile phones come with a built-in security mechanism. So why is there a need for additional mobile security protection?
There's a couple of answers to that. So first of all, the visiting a phishing website is always going to be problematic, right? And that isn't necessarily on the operating system itself. So first thing is you still need to protect phishing across that whole device. The other thing to keep in mind is that, yes, mobile devices have a lot more security built in, but that doesn't mean they're not hackable. You know, when I talk about Pegasus or Predator or any of the advanced jailbreak techniques, those are possible because they're avoiding all of the security mechanisms built in. So we give you some additional tools to make sure that your devices haven't been compromised in that way.
So the next question is something that we already talked about, but I'm going to put the question forward nonetheless. So employees demand privacy. Will personal data be accessible by the company if mobile threat defense is installed? So I guess the answer is no, because we already talked about that.
We did. I'll add in a little bit of color, and I'll say that what we want to do is we need to monitor all the web traffic, but we are not recording where you visit unless it's malicious and phishing, right? So even if the organization decides this is a corporate device and I don't want you going to an adult website, we would block that, but we're not recording what adult website you attempted to go to, right? Because the user privacy is important. Similar, we will help give you tools to analyze all the mobile apps in your fleet, looking for ones that you may not want to have, checking the security of all those apps. But we do it in a way that obfuscates which users have them unless it's malware, right? So you can say, all right, 5% of the devices in my environment have Tinder. Let me go look at Tinder for the security values within the app, but we're not going to tell you which users that is because user privacy is very important.
Okay, so the next question is, can an employee on a mobile device that has corporate access expose the company to phishing via messages, social media, and other mobile applications?
Yeah, I think we've talked about this quite a bit, but pretty clearly the risk there is even if you don't have much data on the device itself, the goal of a lot of these attackers is to get those credentials to be able to authenticate as that user. And we've shown it even in our labs that if I can get you to log in on your mobile device, I can still even take the authentication token, import it into my desktop browser, and I'm logged in as you, right? So the important thing is you're not just protecting the data on the device, you are protecting the identity of the user who owns that device. And more today, your identity really is your mobile device because when you think about it, your multi-factor is almost always on your phone.
Yeah.
You know, if it's real weak, it's an SMS text, but if it's not that, it's probably time-based one-time password or pass keys, or, you know, there's so many different things that when it talks about that second factor of auth, it's coming down to your phone. So you've got to make sure that's protected.
Yeah. So we have two more, and then I think that's all that we can take for today.
Okay.
But rest assured, if there are any more questions that we can't go to today, we will come to you, or you can write us an email. There's some stuff in the that is here in the webinar incorporated. You can download it, you can contact us, and we will have a talk, whatever. So two more, and then we're through.
Yep.
Next question is, how do you evaluate and address device and application vulnerabilities?
That's a good question. It's a bit complicated, right? So one of the things we can do is while employees or customers with devices that are fully managed or supervised, right, have options in Workspace ONE to force down operating system updates. That's a solid solution for those devices that are corporate managed, but it isn't always the case that that's your entire fleet. So mobile threat defense gives us an additional option where what you can do is you can define a window, right? So you may go in and say, all right, my operating system, I want it to be within the last 2 minor releases, right? And as Apple or Google releases patches, that window just moves up. So you're not having to go in and specify a new minimum or anything else, right? It's just a moving window. And we can help your users be reminded to take action. And if the users ignore us for too long, we can actually increase the risk category and again, feed that back into Workspace ONE. So when we talked about the conditional access policies, I can apply that not just to any device out of date, but any device who's out of date, whose user has ignored us for too long, right? So we give the user that grace period to correct the issue on their own, because that often is one of the challenges of mobile, is that the user has to do some action. We can also do that same thing with vulnerable applications. So when Google comes out with a new release of Chrome and they say, here's the security flaws we fix. Oh, and by the way, it applies to mobile. We will flag older versions of Chrome as a vulnerable application. And within the Workspace ONE Mobile Threat Defense Console, you can build a response policy based on a vulnerable application. You don't have to go in and say, all right, flag this version of Chrome. We do that for you. All you do is say, if the device has a vulnerable app, here's how I want the device to behave, right? So the whole point is that we've set up automated processes that when there's a vulnerability to be patched, the user gets notified so we can make sure it gets corrected.
And that feeds nicely into that vision that the administrator does not have to do everything by themselves. They're just notified there is a vulnerable app. You don't have to build up all that knowledge by yourself and manage all the applications in your fleet and everything by your own and do all that nitty-gritty stuff there.
Correct, right? And so often what happens when it comes to mobile security is it's the responsibility of the mobility team to manage this on top of everything else. And the mobility team's going, man, I got to deploy apps. I got to take all the new devices and get them out. And, adding this on top of that, right? We need to make it as easy as possible. We need to make it repeatable, automatic, where the users are notified, and it doesn't require administrators to spend a whole bunch of time to manage, because that's tough. That's a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah. So, Andrew, the last question is a bit in the same direction, but do we have the ability to restrict employees from downloading applications at all on their device? And can we monitor leaky apps delivered via App Store? So most people say, okay, what comes through the iOS App Store, that's safe because Apple checks that and everything, but we know already that that's not true. So can we protect from those apps?
And with the DMA ruling in Europe, Apple now has to allow apps from outside the App Store. So we don't really know what security checks they've had on top of that. So I'm gonna answer the second part of that question first, and then go back to the first. As part of what mobile threat defense brings is we give you the ability to see all the apps now, and security details about all of them, right? So not just, hey, here is, the game your kid's playing, right? But details about it. What countries does it communicate with? Are there insecurities in the code? Does it ask for excessive permissions, right? Stuff that might make you say, oh, I don't really think I want this on my environment. This looks like it could be leaking some data. Now, we offer you the ability in mobile threat defense to, deny list an app, right? Where you can say, all right, this app is not allowed anymore in my environment. Now, blocking entirely, right? Now I can say you're not allowed to have it, but I can't stop you from downloading it without Workspace ONE. And that's where Workspace ONE comes in, where I can go and, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I can go and say, all right, this app cannot be installed on this device because the MDM profile we have there allows me to make those kinds of decisions.
Yeah, that's true. So we actually can do that, and we can prevent, for instance, whatever you decide you don't want to have on your devices to install that.
All right, that's it, I think,
all.
right?
Yeah, that's all we're through. That's all that we have time for today for in questions. There are many more, and we come to them. We will answer all of them. And but for the time, that's all.
All right. Well, thanks, Anne.
Thank you.
I appreciate chatting with you today. And as always, if anybody listening to our webinar has more questions, as Anne said, we've got the stuff in the bottom that you can follow to have us get in touch with you. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Bye-bye.